Woohoo! Welcome back to season 2 of the Done Wisdom Morning Show. This actually might be season 3. I'm not really sure, but either way, we are back. We're live and we're ready to inspire, motivate, and kind of guide you through the process of connecting with your best self so that you can go out in the world and create your own brand of magic. Hi, I'm Melissa Dunn. I am the CEO of MD Marketing Network, the founder of this Dunn Wisdom movement, and your guide into all things success. So we are, as you know, we took a little hiatus and so that I can get used to my role as a commissioner in the beautiful city of Lauderhill. And we are ready. I'm on break as we speak right now from the commission for the month of August. And so we are shooting some content that will be amazing for you, I hope. So we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We're not going to be having the live interaction as before, but I do encourage you to please post your questions. We'll be going back and kind of answering the questions post-show. So let's get into it. My very first guest has had me like super inspired already, and I literally just met her a couple of minutes ago. She is a holistic wellness consultant. The name of her company is, like, get this, the name of her company is Yes Baby, I Like It Raw. Help me to welcome my first guest to the show. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name right now because I know I'm going to butcher it. Hello, welcome to the Done Wisdom Morning Show.
Yeah, it's nice to be here.
So pronounce your name for us.
It's Nzinga.
Izinga. Oh, that's easy to pronounce. I love that. What does it mean?
It means from the river. There was actually a historical figure from the Congo called Queen Nzinga. When the Portuguese came to the Congo to enslave her people, she actually fought them for 40 years, and she would go into the battlefield with her military to protect her kingdom from enslavement. So, pretty powerful figure, and I really loved the fact that that name connects to that individual.
Fantastic. You know, I think it's such a beautiful thing when we name our children something that they can grow into as adults. And I'm interested in hearing your story, man. Tell us, where are you from originally?
I am born and raised in Delray Beach, Florida, to Haitian parents. I'm a first gen. And my story in regards to like how did Yes Baby Like It Raw come into fruition wasn't the nicest beginning. I was diagnosed at 12 with a benign brain tumor, followed by an autoimmune disorder called scleroderma, as well as PCOS. So by the time that I was 13, I pretty much knew I had all these things going on. And I was told I have to be on medication for the rest of my life in order to thrive. For those of you who are on medication, you know that while it resolves one thing, it ends up creating other things. And so I was always on this quest to find another way. 20 years ago, this August is my 20th anniversary, I decided to make a change. I did some research and I felt like a lifestyle overhaul would really help me heal myself. So that looked like me changing the way I eat. I went plant-based vegan. It looked like me going to therapy to deal with my trauma and learn how to better process my stress. It looked like looking at my historical identity and really becoming strong and passionate about who I was and knowing that I came from something. And also working with a lot of holistic practitioners and spiritualists to guide me so I could be a better version of myself. So here I am 20 years later, no longer on medication, doing things that they said I would never be able to do on my own. And I help people on that similar journey.
That's such a blessing. So let's kind of go back to the beginning. So tell me, at what age were you when you were diagnosed?
I started presenting symptoms at 11.
Wow.
And so when I say I started presenting symptoms, let me add more to this narrative. I was suffering from childhood obesity. So I was wearing adult size 16 at 11, size
Mm.
21 in children. I was pre-hypertensive. And then I was starting to menstruate, and my menstruate was very irregular. And so this is where I'm always cheering my mother on, because my pediatrician dismissed it and said, because I was fairly young, and typically when someone starts a menstrual cycle at such a young age, there tends to be some irregularity. However, my mother was just like, no, I don't think so. When
She
my
knew her
menstrual,
baby. She knew something was
yeah,
off.
she was like, when my menstrual cycle came on, it came on. I hear you, you got those degrees, but something's wrong. And because my mom was so persistent and didn't let that be what she knew something was wrong, and because of her persistence, eventually they did some blood work, and they found out my blood work was absolutely horrid. And that led them to doing an MRI, and that's how they discovered that I had a brain tumor, because there was one specific number. My prolactin levels are typically supposed to be in the teens. My prolactin levels were in the hundreds. And so usually
Oh,
that's an indicator
wow.
that there might be a adenoma, some type of tumor. And that's what they discovered.
I imagine that must have been terrifying for you and your family.
Yeah, it was a hard time. Typically when you're 11 and 12 years old, you're thinking about your future in the sense of, I'm going to be this, and I'm going to get married, and I'm going to have a family. And because I got diagnosed with so many things at such a young age, I was forced to be confronted with my mortality. Typically when you're young, you almost think that you're invincible, and
Yeah.
death is definitely not on its heels.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a very challenging time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I would not want to relive that, to be quite honest.
I can
But
imagine.
I'm happy that I'm on the other side of that, and I can use that
Mm-hmm.
story to inspire people to find another way when they're told that there's only one way, and that way looks like a life on medication with other symptoms and things like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned that it's been 20 years since you've been on that journey. How old were you when you made the decision to go raw?
So I'll explain my name a little bit better. So
Oh, yes. Talk about
I
the
was
name. Let's hear.
so
Like,
when
what
I
was your
say
epiphany?
raw, so when I say yes, baby, I like it raw. It's not just raw foods. I eat both raw and cooked foods, but it's more about getting the purest things in your system,
Mm-hmm.
getting down to the raw materials, and also knowing that all the raw materials exist in you so that you can heal yourself. So 20 years ago, I was 20 when I did this journey.
Wait, stop. Back up. Are you meaning to tell me that you're in your 40s?
Yes, ma'am.
Wait, hold on. Let me get a close up. Yes. Okay, beautiful. Your skin is flawless.
Thank you.
All right. So 20 years ago, you were in your 20s, and what happened?
So 20 years ago, I went vegan. I started to take a herbal. So let me start. Sometimes when people go down this journey for holistic wellness, they think, oh, if I go vegan, that's going to solve everything. And that's what I thought in my 20s, arrogance. I always talk about the 20s as the decade of the arrogance. You think you know everything, no one can tell you anything. Right? And hopefully in your 30s you heal, and in your
Yes.
40s you live, right?
Right.
So I thought, yeah, I researched. I was like, yeah, just go vegan and everything's going to be okay. So I went vegan and went off my medication. Absolutely most horrible experience ever. I bled for 30 days because it doesn't work like that. And I remember going to my gynecologist, who had been seeing at that point for 10 years. And he was like, I applaud you. I support you. However, you have to remember that you've been on this medication for quite some time, and your body is used to it. And you can't just stop taking your medication.
Right.
So what I'll do is I'll reduce the dosage, and as you navigate through this journey. And so then I did some research, and I found a holistic health practitioner that prescribed, and I use that word loosely, suggested some herbs and supplements that I could take so I could wean myself off the medication. And then through my diet, as I refined my diet, as I did my healing, and I love to reiterate, I did my healing.
Yes.
I dealt with my
so you did the inner work for it to show up on the outside. Yes.
A lot of times we only think that the things that are happening to us are a result of us being in a bad environment, meaning like our environment has toxins. And that's very much so. We're not having a good diet. That's very much so. But two of the things that I was diagnosed with are directly related to trauma. So my autoimmune disorder, when I went to a Chinese medicine doctor, he would immediately say, "Oh, that's a disease of fear." And I was just like, "What are you talking about?" Right? Again, I had my 20s arrogance. I was like, "You don't know what you're talking about, whatever." But then when I paused and I humbled myself, I reflected on when I got diagnosed. And at that time, I was living in perpetual fear. My mother was suffering from bipolar schizophrenia. And at the time, I didn't know she was bipolar schizophrenic until that moment, because she had her first episode consciously for me at that moment. And that time was very challenging to watch, because her episodes weren't very nice. Of course, with depression, that's not as traumatizing. But when she was in the manic schizo space, that was traumatizing to an 11-year-old girl. And also, not being sure of when she was going to have another episode when she had that one episode. And there was this cycle of going in and out of depression and mania, And so then my tumor is benign. I always say that. I still have my tumor, but research has shown that individuals who get my tumor have absenteeism from fathers.
Well, you know what? Don't listen. I so believe that children who have adverse childhood experiences, whether it's being exposed to trauma, even being in communities that are violent, in being in communities where a parent is either absent or depressed, there is research.
Yes.
That shows that those children have chronic disease when they become adults. It's on the CDC's website. It's called ACEs. Yes, so everything, listen, there's no accident. There is absolutely no accident. The fact that you and I are discussing this topic that I am so now interested in, there's no topic. There's no accidents at all. Continue. I'm excited about the conversation.
Yeah. So with prolactinomas is the type of tumor I have. I found research as early as the 80s that said that men and women who have that particular tumor are more likely to have fathers who are alcoholic, abusive, or absentee. So in my case, I had a father and I had a stepfather, and that's a whole different conversation. I'm going to leave that to the side. But I definitely know that I fall under that window where, okay, it makes sense that I would have the tumor that I have. Because of some of the things that I was dealing with by way of my mother and her mental illness, and by way of the presence of the father figures, my father and my stepfather, and the way they presented in the household. So that's why I cannot emphasize enough how important it is as adults that we do that healing, that we heal our inner child, that we see a therapist, that we do that work. Because it's very much, a lot of the things that we're being confronted with in our adulthood is very much interrelated with what we were confronted in our childhood. Unfortunately for me, there's two sides to the coin. One, unfortunately for me, I think because I was dealing with so many stressors that my body was just like at 12 years old, unfortunately, right? But I will say this, I was fortunate to have really good health insurance. And so I'm thankful for that.
Blessing. Because that's a blessing. A lot of people don't have that.
My stepfather worked at a university, And as a result of that, we had amazing health insurance. And so that allowed me to have all the specialists, be able to pay for all of the medication I was taking. I was even sent to the University of Miami because the way my autoimmune disorder presented, it presented atypical, and they wanted to study me. And so in that case, I had an advantage because most people don't get diagnosed with the things that I got diagnosed with at the age that I got diagnosed with. Typically, they got diagnosed in their 30s, maybe late 20s, but not in their teens. And so because of that, I think the moment that I decided to change my life and address these things at 20 is the reason why I'm able to thrive now in my early 40s. Well, I'm just 40. Let me claim I just turned 40. I'm still coming to terms with that. I'm like, wait, I'm 40? I don't feel 40.
You know, the thing that's so interesting is that I remember, you know, I'm from Jamaica, and I remember going home one day, probably in my 20s, and having a conversation with my grandmother, my paternal grandmother who helped to raise me. And I remember, imagine 21, 22 years old, feeling really overwhelmed, sitting outside on a stool. I put my head in her lap and I was crying, and I was asking her, Grandma, why do I have to suffer so much? And my grandmother gave me a piece of advice that I'm going to share with you. She said, baby, everybody has to go through some form of suffering, right? Which we know that as holistic practitioners, we know that suffering is a part of our transformation, right? But the other thing she said to me was that some people suffer early in life, some people suffer in the middle, and some people suffer towards the end of their life. So those of us who suffered in the beginning, my gosh, the middle and the end part of our life, there's just like party. our joy, our abundance, all of that is yet to come.
Because, man,
yeah, and so I want to say that to you as an encouragement, and I can see from your smile and your glow that you're probably experiencing that right now.
I would definitely say that for sure, because when I tell you that time of my life was hard, between being diagnosed and I became parentified because my mom's illness, so she couldn't even take care of herself typically when she was in her depressive state. And so I was living a double life at that time, where a lot of people who grew up with me, when they hear my story now, they can't believe that that's what I was dealing with, because I was in a magnet program. I was getting straight A's and B's.
Oh, yes.
Got a full scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, wait, what? You were dealing with all of that? And I think it was important for me to do that healing when I did, because I was gonna crash and burn. I was on the heels of crashing and burning, because I was internalizing so much.
Yeah.
And it was making my situation worse in terms of my physical health.
So when you decided to transition, you took a multi-pronged approach. You work with the holistic side, you worked with your doctor and a therapist. So you really had a team helping you to transition and get your health back.
Yes.
Oh, that's really powerful. That's really powerful. What were the lessons that you learned that you could share with our audience?
So one, healing is not one size fits all. And I look at the healing process like an onion. You peel off a layer and there might be something else to deal with. But you know what? You can be healing and okay at the same time. I think sometimes we feel that because we're in the middle of our healing process, that means that we're dysfunctional, that we can't also thrive in other spaces in our lives. And that's not necessarily true. And sometimes healing can be a lifetime process because of some of the traumas that we experienced. So I would say that was one of my main learning points, because I thought that, okay, if I go to therapy, everything's going to be fine, in terms of my trauma. But as recently as 2 years ago, I was learning some new things that I needed to process, that I was internalizing in respect to therapy, But in the journey, I've been able to make lots of inroads, you know, and definitely be a beacon for those who might be embarking in a certain journey. The other thing I say is get yourself a team, you know.
Oh, I love that.
I am not here because of me, myself, and I. I'm here because of Dr. Africa. I'm here because of Yaya Feeney. I'm here because of Dr. Love. I'm here because of Dr. Sussman. I'm here because of Dr. Melman. I'm here because of my therapist. I mean, like, I could list a whole list of people who supported me on my journey and let me know that I was going to be okay. And I made this analogy the other day, like, when you go on your healing journey, you are going to be in the driver's seat most of the time, but sometimes you're going to have people who join me on that journey who are going to get in the car with you. Sometimes they're going to share the responsibility of the drive. They might have someone that you need to see and take you there, and they leave you once you get to that person. And having a group of people who support you, who hold you accountable, and also knowing that there's some people that you're going to lose along the way. And healing is integrated. It's mind, body, spirit.
Absolutely.
Typically, if you see something going on physically, that means there's a disconnect spiritually and emotionally that you have to deal with. The physical body typically is the last place that you see the disruption. And that work, that emotional, spiritual work, is not easy. You know, a lot of times people make it seem like it's like berries and roses and butterflies and rainbows. It's ugly. You're gonna bust that ugly cry out a couple
There's some thorns in there too, right?
There's lots of thorns, because a lot of times, especially when we talk about trauma, a lot of us don't know who we are without identifying with the trauma. And so we hold on to the trauma.
Girl, wait, say that again. Say that again.
A lot of us have said, I am my trauma, right? And we have identified with the trauma so much that the idea of letting the trauma go
is traumatic.
It's traumatic. Right?
Yes.
And so, and we judge ourselves through the optic of the trauma, right? Because we think that people will only see us as this traumatized person, and instead of seeing us as a person who had an experience and are living beyond that experience. And that's hard work. That's hard work.
It is, but it's worthwhile work.
It's worthwhile, but it's important that you have people in your life who can support you in that journey. And sometimes it's not your friends, because your friends haven't embarked on the journey themselves, and they might be antagonistic to that process. And so I had to learn that there's friends that are going to be there for one chapter, and there's friends that are going to be with you through the book, through the whole entire book.
Listen, my mother says people are in your life for a reason and a season. Embrace them and live in the moment for when they are.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. So you help people through that journey, right? Talk to us a little bit about your company. First of all, let's just talk about the name. Yes, baby, I like it raw. I mean, isn't that like a song in the 80s, like a rap song?
Yeah.
Baby, I like it raw.
I like it raw. Yeah, it is a song. You know, a lot of my work focuses on working with people of African descent, right? So, because a lot of the stats when it comes to us are horrid. You know, when we look at our stats, I'm recently working on a campaign to address hypertension for Black women. The stats are Black women over 20, 50% of them have hypertension.
I believe it.
50%, you know? And we know that hypertension is the gateway for other things. And so through my company, I help people have sustainable, holistic practices so that they can be the best version of themselves. And so the key to all healing is tapping into your raw potential. Because a lot of times we think everything is external. We need something outside of ourselves, but really we need something in ourselves that then will draw the right things towards us so that we can heal. And so through Yes Baby, I Like It Raw, I have consultations. I do meal preparation. I have detox programs. I have a 3-month program where I work with people so that if they are dealing with chronic disease or they need something more hands-on, we work through it and we see ourselves on the other side of through, as the gospel song that I love says. And so, for instance, I recently had a client who had the same diagnosis as me with the pituitary tumor, and she did my 3-month program, and the same things that they told her that she wouldn't be able to do because of the tumor, 2 months in, her body is able to do it. But again, like through that process, not only did we make shifts in regards to her diet and in regards to her lifestyle, the biggest thing that I said was like, we have to deal with the trauma. And what's amazing is when I say the ACE, right? These adverse childhood things, I almost felt like I was looking at my reflection when I was working with her, because we experienced some of the most similar trauma where it was unnerving for me. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
if you hadn't dealt with your own trauma, it would have been triggering for you.
Exactly. And so, so that's also important for healers. It's important that you are in a space where you can support people, where you won't re-traumatize your clients because you haven't dealt with your trauma, or you can't hold space with them because their trauma is traumatizing to you. And one of the things I also created, which is a product of Yes Baby I Like It Raw, is an app. It's called 365 Zing. And it was designed to help Black women create sustainable practices with their wellness. So you remember—
what's the name of the app?
It's 365 Zing, and you can go to
365 SING?
ZING, Zing.
Oh, scene 365
Zing, ZING.com.
So 365 Zing. Okay, gotcha.
Is a multifaceted app that helps Black women become the best versions of themselves. So a lot of the things that I had to learn along the way in my healing process, I bring into the app. So you have your recipes, you have your on-demand courses. We also have live courses. We have live classes. We have a Soka Fitness class that happens every Monday. We have, most recently, we had a 6 weeks of holistic wellness course with a nurse practitioner. We had a Exhale, which was a course for mothers. And we have more courses that come in that are live and in person. There's parts that people can do themselves, but then there's also the community component to that. So that is a subscription-based model. I also do like cooking classes and things like that. And so that's at 365zing.com. And that was birthed.
There you go. 365 Zing.
Yes.
I have that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
so
perfect.
So
they can get the app anywhere on anywhere they can download apps, right? Google, Apple, all of that stuff.
It's actually it's on my website, 365zing.com. I opted not to do that because
look at that.
They charge for you to go into the marketplace, and they take a part of the subscription. And
listen, entrepreneur, let's hear it.
So for those of you who might want to join the app building world, I just built this app last year. When you build an app, if you want it in the app stores, they charge you a fee. And then if it's a subscription-based app, then they also take a piece of your subscription. However, they don't market. You still have to do the same level of marketing, and they are taking this money.
So you're like, listen, I'm going to promote it on my website. I'm going to drive the thing myself. Let's go. I'm a true entrepreneur. I'm a boss babe. I'm a woman getting it done. Let's do this. I love it. I love it. I love it. So question, any final words of wisdom for our audience?
Focus on one thing at a time. Sometimes when we want to take our wellness into our control and we want to do better, we try to do everything at one time. And that's not sustainable. So I say conquer a little bit at one time, one thing at a time, and then go to the next thing. And then before you know it, you'll turn around and you're on the other side, and you're the person that you wanted to be. And be kind. The other thing is be kind and compassionate to ourselves. You didn't get where you are overnight, and it's a journey to get to where you want to be, and you have to be compassionate to yourself, and give yourself grace. Because the world doesn't give
Listen,
us enough grace. We have to be the first givers of the grace that we deserve.
absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story. I am super excited for you, and I'm really grateful that you are using the lessons that God taught you to kind of pour into other women, pour into other people. And so I just want to say thank you in advance for
Thank
all of the
you.
lives that you're going to be impacting in the future. And I look forward to seeing what happens with you next.
Same. Thank you very much. Thank you for
All
having me
right.
on your show.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Okay, you guys, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Done Wisdom Morning Show. Please tune in. Again, we are on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 9 a.m. on Facebook, as well as on YouTube. So remember, be kind and loving to yourself today. You deserve it.